Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Carpenter. Thanks so much for coming in today and chatting with me. I know it's been pretty busy for you guys right now, getting ready to retire and get all your ducks in a row, and it's really been a pleasure working with you over the last couple of months to analyze your financial position. As you know, and as I've been emphasizing throughout this process, there's a lot of steps to the financial planning process. We initially started by kind of establishing what the relationship was going to look like between myself as the financial planner and our firm, and then yourselves as the client and what that relationship looked like. We've talked about kind of the information gathering process. I gave you a homework assignment and had you send me all of your different accounts and got a statement of financial position from you to really help me analyze and evaluate your current financial position in step 3. Today we want to start really helping communicate to you our recommendations and my findings as I look through your financial situation. And I've got to say, this is definitely kind of an anomaly for me because we don't often see clients that come to us with such a well-rounded portfolio of different assets and investments that they've accumulated throughout their working career. So kudos to you both. Again, excited to continue to work with you. And I thought it'd be really helpful today to just share with you a couple different areas that I know are really important to you, namely some of your income sources in retirement I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to talk about debt management in retirement and kind of helping consolidate some of the outstanding debt that you have. And then another issue that you voiced to me was kind of what to do with your vacation home and those properties that you currently have. So diving in here, let's talk a little bit about retirement, particularly starting with Kevin, your traditional IRA. Again, IRAs, 401ks, pension plans, a lot of those are pre-retirement assets that were offered through your employer. So this being your defined benefit plan was something that you had access to and you contributed to in a way, and that's a benefit made possible by working where you do. So you're currently 62 and approaching it. Kevin, that benefit pension plan only accumulates up until age 62. So one of the questions you asked was, should you delay collecting that defined benefit pension plan? And, as you'll see in our recommendation, no, you definitely shouldn't, because after age 62, there's really no point in delaying. So the bigger question then really became, and I outlined this for you, there's 3 different choices that you have. You can take the single life pension annuity, you can take the joint and survivor annuity, which offers an half benefit once you pass away. And then you can also take the lump sum option. So there was a $1.2 million payout that you could have all at once, and that was really your third option. So kind of looking at those one at a time, your single life pension annuity, it paid based on a percentage of salary and your years worked. And what we calculated was that it paid out about $1 million based on your life expectancy and again, based on what you thought and how long you were going to live. And we thought that was appropriate. So the single life pension annuity, if we used $1 million as the calculation, which we thought was appropriate, that's how much it would pay out. With the joint and survivor annuity, the total value of that annuity was exactly the same. So we based that on you not living as long as Anne, since she's significantly younger. And based on the payout under the joint and survivor annuity, what we realized as we looked it over, that it would still pay out about $1 million looking at the life expectancies and so on and so forth. The third option was the lump sum distribution of sorts, or taking the $1.2 million and then kind of managing it on your own. And that's the one that I really want to talk about because I think that option is probably going to be the most feasible for you going forward. So being able to access $1.2 million and then invest those assets on your own gives you quite a bit more control. Not only with how that money is invested, but also with the distribution and how you turn that into an income stream in retirement. So taking the $1.2 million, based on the projections that we saw, how your risk tolerances were aligned, taking the $1.2 million as a lump sum and then rolling that, Kevin, into your existing traditional IRA that you already have set up, puts that account at $1.5 million because you had $300,000 in that traditional IRA. So what that allows us to do is it allows us to have really this lump of pre-tax money that you're then able to effectively diversify, and that's something, as I've outlined here, we'll be able to help you with. And the beautiful thing about that is that you're only taxed based on the money that you take out in a given year. So when you roll it from the defined benefit plan and you take that as a lump sum, as long as it goes straight into the traditional IRA, you're not going to pay any tax on it. And then, as I mentioned, you're only taxed based on what you take out in a given year. So that's one of the real benefits. As we outlined in the plan, we'll help you with the investment side of it. We're shooting for right now about a 60% target allocation to stocks, to equities, and then about 40% of that going to fixed income, so more of the bond instruments, the interest rate bearing, more conservative options. And that was based, primarily on some of the metrics and rules of thumbs that we look at our firm, based on life expectancy and just really exposure to risk. So that was one of the things we found would be probably the most effective for you, would be just to take those funds from the defined benefit plan and rolling those into the traditional IRA to give you more control, and it will also allow the monies that are in the account to continue compounding and growing into retirement, and you can just take the money out based on what your income needs are. Also wanted to talk a little bit about debt management. So one of the things that I noticed, and it really jumped out to me pretty early on, was the amount of credit card debt that you have. So it looked like you were carrying a few balances here. 3 different credit cards. One had $15,000 of a balance. Another one had $21,000. Another one had $24,000. So you were carrying about, based on this, $60,000 of credit card debt. Now, the problem with credit card debt is that really it carries a lot of interest expense with it. So if you think about different types of debt you could have, I like to break it down into good debt and bad debt. So good debt, an example of that would be maybe a home mortgage. So you've got, your primary residence, you've got your vacation home, which are both, you're paying mortgages on both of those. And you are paying a little bit of interest there, but that's going towards an asset. You own that. So the benefit there is that when that mortgage is paid off, you can sell again outright. There's an investment component to it. With credit card debt, that would kind of fall into that bad debt category where you're paying a lot in interest expense and it's just purely for holding that money. You owe that money to the credit card company. And the interest rates are significantly higher. It could be upwards of 20%. So one of the things I wanted to immediately suggest you do, and again, this is in the report as well when we look at debt management, but I wanted to suggest you take from your emergency fund, which is currently at $120,000, and just take $60,000 of that and just completely pay off all your credit card balances as soon as possible. That's still going to leave you with a $60,000 emergency fund, which we both agreed was adequate, and it's going to allow you to save a lot of money just in interest expense, and it's going to improve your cash flow in retirement, which is really important. The last thing I wanted to talk about was your vacation home. So we kind of broke it down into an additional component into the report here, but your current vacation home is valued at $540,000. And you were considering whether to sell it, whether to gift it. And I think there's pros and cons to each of those, but as you'll see, the recommendation that we had was, why not keep that vacation home in the family? It was something that was clearly very important to you. It sounded like the kids, Kevin, had kind of grown up going to the vacation home, and so you did want to keep it in the family and allow them to access it as a benefit. Maybe a viable option for you, and again, this is something we talk about, would be to consider renting this property out for part of the year. So create some income, create some cash flow, rent it out through either a property manager if you don't want to deal with it yourself. Another great option could be a service like Airbnb or a home rental service, or for vacationers where maybe you can rent it out for several nights of the week or times of the year where this isn't going to be in use. So it's a great way to continue to hold the property as an asset in your estate. It's going to save you some taxes there and potentially a big tax liability if you sell it. And it'll still allow your family, and particularly your kids, Kevin, to really enjoy that benefit. So those were a few of the recommendations that I wanted to talk about. Again, there's a full report here. Take some time to look through it. I'm excited to continue working with you as we just continue to implement your ongoing financial plan in retirement. Kevin, Ann, thanks so much for coming in this afternoon.